Hi guys, and welcome back to DES116. We are picking up where we left off last night with the demo and the color poster. But before we go into how we want to lay out the poster and do a demo on the tools and everything, especially for the mock-up, I wanted to go over some advanced design composition rules that you may or may not have had a chance to see yet. And they will probably help you lay out your posters a little bit better. So, hi, Bruno.
Hey, how's it going?
It's great. Yeah, I was just saying we're going to go over some advanced composition rules that you guys may or may not have seen yet. So this way we'll have a little bit extra time to play and you'll have some new techniques to use. So,
Okay, sounds good.
see here, where did my screen share go? Okay, so what we have tonight, there's on top of the CRAP principles, there are the 7 basic rules of composition. It's basically the way and the art of arranging and placement of the visual elements in your work. It's also thought of organization. You're also going to hear it thought of as design, form, visual ordering, formal structure. And here at Independence, you're probably going to hear the word hierarchy a lot. I know there are several instructors that are really keen on that word hierarchy. It's putting the most important information out where it can be seen the easiest. So basic rules, staying out of the dead center. We're not just centering everything. We're staying out of designing in the corners. We're not using the edge of the paper as a line. We're setting up actual margins for a live area because even though it's had a lot of updates, Illustrator still does not allow us to set margins. We have to build those ourselves. InDesign, it's pretty easy, but with Photoshop and Illustrator, you have to set those. Creative cropping. That always makes me feel like I'm a better photographer than I actually am. Filling the entire space, and even if it's just negative space or extra white space, it's not always a bad thing. Filling up everything so that there's so much going on you don't know where to look next, it can be a little overwhelming to the viewer, cause confusion, and then your message is lost completely. So have a designated center of interest, and this week it's going to be our color wheels. And using odd numbers like 1, 3, and 5 rather than the even numbers gives you a little bit better way to balance things without them being completely symmetrical. Now, there are those clients out there that are going to demand that everything has to be symmetrical. If you have one thing on one side, you have to have it on the other side. You can tell them no, they won't listen, but you can tell them that. So the center only, it's just there. It doesn't look like we've done anything to it. But if we just offset it a little bit, like the boy in front of the quilt, we have some visual interest on either side of him. He's actually the focal point, but he's not directly in the center. And on the bottom one, we have the soda jerk and we have a couple at the counter. And then the light is leading us out of the picture, or it's leading you into the picture depending on which way you're looking at it. But there's definitely a focal point there in the light area that is not directly in the center. And sometimes staying out of the dead center is one of the hardest things we do as designers. And especially when you're first starting out, you just have this urge to center all your text, make it all center aligned, and it's all just triangle in the middle of the page. Sometimes that works, but most of the time it's only for newspapers because they have to be able to measure how much advertising they're doing in a newspaper, because if they have too much advertising, they have to pay more in postage when they send those out to be delivered. So this is how you don't stay in the center. So if we folded the goose in half, we would have almost exactly the same thing on both sides. The same with the chair and the same with this guy here. If you fold it in half, you're going to have the same amount on each side, and it balances really, really well. And sometimes being off balance is more fun. I should know. My doctor tells me I'm special. It's kind of scary when they tell you you're special.
I get told that.
I've been told I'm the special case. Then I tell them to look at my mother and they say, oh yeah, we forgot. So the golden mean, have you seen anything about the golden mean, Bruno?
I think I've heard the term before, but I don't know much about it. I've seen that picture too, somewhere.
Yeah, it's also known as the divine proportion.
Okay.
And there is actually a really cute video on YouTube that I normally show you guys, but since Disney is cracking down on YouTube, I can't always show it because it tells me it's restricted globally or something. And I'm going, okay. But it's Donald Duck in the world of mathemagics. And really, it's about a 4-minute video out of a 45-minute. This one here. It's a really cute video. And if somebody had taken the time to share this with me when I was in middle school, geometry would have not been as painful.
Make it a little easier to handle.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as. This broke it down into the golden proportion being a rectangle called the divine proportion, and how artwork is put together using the mathematical proportions. And honestly, if somebody had told me how this worked before geometry, it wouldn't have ended in tears every day. I swear to this day, my geometry teacher passed me just so we could both stop crying at her desk after school. So we have staying out of the corners only. I'm pretty sure you've seen designs where everything is lopped off into the corners.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of that beginner mistake that we all kind of do, whether we really want to or not. I think it's one of those default settings on a designer's brain.
Yeah.
But this is a really good way to take that golden proportion, the spiral, and think of it as a conch shell or a spiral staircase. And it's all about leading your eye to a focal point. Now, the focal point happens to be along the spiral in this particular staircase. But if we were to pull that spiral out here in Van Gogh's painting, we're going to see that this is the center point. It's our focal. And he's not got everything. Granted, there's something at all of the corners, but it's not the focal point. This one's a little harder because we're kind of going all the way around and then landing in the middle of the pool table. So he's in every corner except for this one where his signature's at. And then there's not staying out of the corners. This one, you look at this poor little guy, and we know already that if we fold him in half in any way, we're going to be equal. But each limb leads you out of the picture. There's nothing to bring you back inside again. And then there's this wonderful skateboarding picture, which is horribly cropped because all you see is the kid aiming off the page. He's leading you off. I mean, there's nothing to draw interest down here. And then there's the heels. They're pointed this way, but our text reads this way. It says, I was raised to say ass backwards.
Yeah.
No, it's bass backwards. That's what it was. It's bass backwards. Because if we just reflected the toes to point the other direction and left the type alone, it would have suddenly start working, because the type would be leading us to the toes instead of the toes just pointing us off the page and completely forgetting about the type.
Yeah, it's two different directions.
Yeah. And you add the stripes and the cheetah print in there, and you're just all sorts of confused.
I wonder if that's what they were going for when they made these, to kind of mess with your mind a little bit.
Some of them were, and some of them aren't.
Because that one, the first one with the guy stretched out, that kind of like against all kinds of design rules. Maybe they did it on purpose as like a message, like I'm going to break all the rules with this painting anyway, like as a message. I don't know. I mean, because
I'm going to kill it just because I can.
Yeah. Some people have that, angst, like I'm going to go against the rules for this, Maybe it was their intention.
Learning tool.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, so using the edge of the paper as a line.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you've seen that where, and I know I've had examples from students that they've butted everything up against the edge of the paper in Illustrator, and they send it to PDF, and the next thing you know, all of their borders are cut off.
Yep. You could run it off the page, but don't butt it up against the edge. That's not good.
Especially if it's text.
Yeah, that doesn't look good at all. I hate that.
So if we're not going to use the edge of the paper, this whole picture is just there. There's no added information besides the house. What is so utterly important that we just see this house with a whole bunch of windows? I haven't quite figured that one out yet. But if we try and line this up, we've got all these great pictures of trees, but where are they going? It's like they're cutting off some of that information.
Yeah.
But cropping, on the other hand, creatively can be fun.
Mm-hmm.
So this picture here, I saw before I started my master's program. I saw it during my master's program. And I think it probably took me about 3 weeks that we were studying this one picture and the use of repetition, that I realized that we were looking at Mount Fuji with boats on it with a load of rice. I knew I was looking at a tsunami wave. I knew I was looking at a volcano. For some reason, the boats just did not connect with me.
You okay?
So with that, yeah, you can tell how observant I am when it comes to actually looking at small pieces of art. But now that I know that there are boats involved, it makes far more sense. But the picture on the left, we have all kinds of things that we could be looking at and imagining what's happening either direction across up and down the street. Because we've got the Dolly Madison ice cream luncheonette, we've got the Roxy, there's a church down here. Who knows what's going on the other direction? All we know is that it's raining and that it's a colorful little town.
Yeah.
But it lets you use your imagination to figure out what's happening. That's the cool part. So if we have no cropping, it doesn't really leave anything to the imagination. And then we get symmetrical pieces like this where we can fold it in half and have about the same amount of trees on it. So it can be not cropping it can cause you to be less interesting than if, say, you cropped it this way and you had just part of the strawberry showing, or we cropped it.
I mean, if it's one specific object, I can see the purpose for it, like the strawberry, because it's the focal point. And that's the only thing in the picture. I mean, they want you to pay attention to that. But when you have two trees like that, or more than one thing, then it would make
it would make far more sense to just crop out the trees you don't need.
Yeah, like a vector portrait of a person probably would be in the middle of the page, I would think. But when you have multiple items,
I think it kind of depends on what the background is you're painting for them. I mean, the Mona Lisa is only, her face is only centered. Her body's not.
They want you to focus on the face. That's the whole thing. The face, the features, the expression, all of it.
Now they're filling the space. Wonderful gold star. Our pairs we're using odd number of pairs that we can see all of. We're using asymmetrical balance with this one. It's another Van Gogh. And the castle spires is what this is supposed to be. It's predominant and the village is secondary.
Yeah, if she had $3,000, she could have lent it to you and she got paid.
So while he's got some negative space going on in the blue, we still know that what this is. This is the castle, this is the background, or this is the city. But by putting it off center, the space is still filled and we still have a valid viewpoint. Again, off-centered cropping, not filling up the entire space.
I mean, in some people's eyes, that would look like there's a big blank space, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about really how the person views the picture and what they prefer, too. I mean, some people would be like, some people have to have everything right in the middle. Some people like stuff like it's a little creative. I don't know if this should be a general rule, though, because, I mean, some people can look at this and see a big space and the other side's full. So, I mean, I don't know if that's more of an.
The only other option for this to not fill the space.
Yeah.
Or to
a whole bunch of.
With them.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of room which is green in it. I mean.
Well, I mean, after all, we are looking at a bug here, so you're going to have to zoom in on him more.
Yeah.
And put him in the center. But if we leave some space around him and let him breathe, we're actually noticing more and more about him as he sits there because it's more in focus. I mean, we can see the additional little hairs that are popping out, the ones on his legs, and we're seeing the spines on the back legs. So this is a really good way to focus in on him without being distracted by the rest of the information.
Yeah, like if he was in the middle, he was in the middle of that picture, though. I mean, would you be able to see more of those details, or would you have to train your eye to go to the left to look more at it? As I looked directly at this picture, I saw his leg first, the one that's in the back, the hind leg that's bent. That was the first thing I saw. And then I had to do two movements. I went straight to the front and then I went to the left. So, I mean, it took me more work to get the information. But if I would have seen it first directly in the middle, maybe I would have seen all the details. I don't know. It's all about perspective, really.
It is. And a lot of that perspective has to do with the artist that took the picture and did the cropping.
I mean, what they like, what the people like,
If they had put this in front, center, bold in the picture, as big as they could get it, it probably would have turned me off from paying attention to what was exactly in front of me. I would be looking at everything but what was in front of me.
See, I would have put it like maybe directly in the middle, low, and then have like a U around it with green. That way you can you see it, but you still have the surrounding negative space around it to compensate. So I don't know. It's just the way.
This one's debatable.
Yeah.
It could be centered on the other side, or it's centered, or it could be on the right side. If you reflect it, it's gonna you're gonna see other things pop out. But when we have a center of interest, and I still, after all many mods, I cannot figure out what the center of interest is, because for the longest time I thought all of these goldfish were orange socks. I can't find the right orange sock. It doesn't match.
That's what it looks like.
You know, it's goldfish. I'm going,
wow.
Why are the socks floating? You know, suddenly it was, me going through all of my derby socks trying to find the right leg. Because if you get those mixed up, you could be telling off the wrong person, because they each have something on the outside leg. One's meant for the referees, one's meant for the audience. But when you're looking at this and you're seeing all this orange on the bottom, it looks like my kid's clothes on the dirty floor.
Yeah.
And then I'm seeing socks sticking out of the dresser, out of the nightstand. And then I realize, oh, those are fish. Why are they sleeping with fish? So it just, the whole center of interest on this one just kind of lost me.
It's a very interesting picture.
But this one, I know what the center of interest is on this. It's the dog's rear end. That is literally what my eye gets drawn to, is immediately it's the dog's rear end. Because I'm weird like that, and I'm going to notice the thing I'm not supposed to notice. However, if we crop the dog's rear end out of it, and we have this blank space here, we've got some pretty nice negative space working on the center of interest being the trees.
Yeah.
We've got a little stand right here, and then we've got several over here that are giving you more interest to the trees. And then this one here, I have no idea what we're supposed to be focusing in on here. Is it the leaves? Are there some bugs in there? Is there crop damage? Am I looking at a baby grapevine? I don't know. They didn't. It's like I need an explanation on the bottom.
Yeah, just to know what it is.
Yeah, and we really shouldn't have to ask for that kind of information when that's supposed to be the center of the interest. It should be easily identifiable.
Yeah. The dog one, I think they were trying to capture the trees, but they wanted it to look like the dog was just passing by or accidentally ended up in the picture. I think the trees and the scenery is the main focus, though. I think they threw that in there just to like put it as honestly, like a scenery kind of deal with the dog just being there. But I don't know. Maybe they
knowing the dogs in my life, they would have sat their rear end right there just to irritate me.
Just to get on your nerves.
just so that they could say they were in the picture.
Yeah.
Okay. So odd numbers are more interesting than even numbers. This is a general rule. It's not an always rule. But when you're trying to add some interest, if you can make it so that you're using an odd number versus an even number, it adds interest to the layout and it keeps your viewer's eye going a little bit longer. So we have one tree, very nicely manicured, probably one of those little Japanese miniature trees.
Yeah.
And then we have the 3 light posts with an obelisk in the background. And I'm not sure whether this is another obelisk or whether this is in Paris, and that's the Eiffel Tower there in the background. But in both points, we're looking at odd numbers taking up the space. And then we have the odd numbers of the dandelions at different heights. So it kind of leaves you in a bump and roll. And then when we put the even numbers together, we've got a cloud and the sun, which is my focal point, the cloud or the sun.
That's the thing you're battling.
Yeah. The same with the trees. Am I focusing on this tree or am I focusing on this tree? They're both sets of 2, but they don't always give us the focal point that we need for the piece.
True.
So sometimes that focal point, you know, if you know you're focusing on two clouds, you're focusing on two clouds. But here, we don't have that information. We're just left with the sunspot and a cloud or two trees.
And then the sunspot just basically grabs your attention because it's brighter and bigger. And so you're basically looking just at that. And then the cloud is an afterthought.
And then you kind of lose everything that you were trying to do in the first place.
Yeah. And the big trio obviously will get your attention before the little one. But like I said, it's boring and there's really no like focal point to it.
There's something missing in there to grab your attention and make you want to look longer.
That's right.
And that's really what we're trying to accomplish with our graphic design and our layouts, is to find that perfect balance for that particular design. Now, some of these are going to apply all of the time, and some of them aren't. It's just a matter of what you're working on at the time and how you need to lead your viewer's eye through the project.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ways is to take this divine proportion picture and overlay it in Photoshop or in Illustrator to find out where my focal point is, how I could rearrange it to make my focal point be where I want it to. And this doesn't always have to be this way. You can rotate it, you can reflect it, you can turn it upside down, whatever it is you need to do to make that focal point show up. So I tend to take a screenshot of this, overlay it on the design that I'm working on to find out exactly where my focal point is. If I can find my focal point, then I know I'm on the right track. And it's all about leading your viewer's eye through the piece. And that gets harder and harder and harder the more you get into grid systems and laying things out. It wasn't hard as a newspaper. In newspaper, it's easy. You have 4 columns. You fill it. That's it.
That's it.
You have advertising. You put it at the bottom. You angle it up. You put as much type in a small section as possible because that's what they're paying for. And the advertising pays for the paper, not the subscription.
Yeah.
It sounds cruel and cold-hearted to say that, but yeah, your advertisers pay for it. So you have to make the advertisers happy. At the same time, make the subscription purchaser think that they're the #1 priority of the newspaper. We're putting all this news together just for them. Trust me, in small towns, there is going to be at least 3 little old men sitting down at the barber shop complaining about what didn't get put in the paper.
Of course.
And when they find out that you're the one that puts the paper together, they're going to be on you like white on rice. And they will not be bringing Diet Pepsi when they come. They will bring their own coffee cups and a thermos to tell you how to do your job correctly.
Wow.
Just saying, you know, because that's where I went to school. Yeah. They all knew where to find me. Okay, so yesterday we were putting together our color wheels. And we were going to finish our layout today. So I'm going to delete all of the fun stuff we were playing with. And bring down our color wheels.
I should have mine in tonight sometime, hopefully.
Okay. I'm not too worried about it because it's only Wednesday.
Okay.
But I was so glad to see people actually posting in the discussion today.
Oh, yeah, you got to. Yeah. I got mine in yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
And Darren put his in today, and I'm going, yes, they're participating.
And we do have enough participants to answer 2 replies, right? So we should be good.
Yeah. And you can also reply to mine, that counts.
Okay.
So I think what I'm going to do here is put a background. And I want to put that on the bottom. So I can kind of see my additive versus my subtractive. And then I can put.
And I was doing this yesterday. It was kind of messing with me because the black lines and the white lines, if you look at them, those are the exact same size, but the one with the black lines looks smaller, don't it?
It does.
It depends on the background color, obviously, but I tried it with both ways, and it's still kind of. I wanted it to look like they were the same size, but no matter what, if you use those colors, one always looks bigger than the other.
Sometimes you're just going to be
like the illusion.
stuck.
Yeah.
So this one, I can put my title in. And what were we going to call this thing? Color resources?
I think it was called, well, in the sample thing, it was understanding color.
You can pretty much name it anything you want to. It's recognizing colors. And that's kind of up to you guys what you want to name it. Infographics for color.
I call mine understanding color pathways is what I put. But
there you go. That works.
Pathways to the bottom of it.
So I've got color resources. And I'm going to bring this up and make it big. Mm-hmm. And because it's my main piece here, I'm going to make it kind of decorative, go with something decorative. So in my infinite supply of fonts that probably should not be played with in a professional setting, because there's Alice in Wonderland, and, of course, I cannot spell. Always make sure you spell check.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's probably my #1 bad habit, is forgetting to spell check or being unable to proofread my own work because I've been staring at it for so long that missing letter is no longer missing. It's just my brain thinks it's there. Mm-hmm. Ooh, we could play with Brother Tattoo. That could be cool. Very hard to weed if you cut it out in vinyl. That one requires too much tracking work. We'll try Everglow. Okay, so while I'm in here, I'm going to turn on my view for my rulers so that I can put a decent margin in here. So I don't inadvertently chop anything off.
Yeah, I always use those guides. They really are helpful.
Now, if they would only make them so that they would come out at a diagonal, I would be thrilled.
I said the same thing. I was wondering why you couldn't rotate those, or that'd be a good improvement.
Yeah. The only way I have been able to come up with it to create a diagonal is to turn my stroke the cyan blue, mm-hmm. and then cross it this way.
Just draw a line.
Just draw them myself and make them to the point where I can turn that portion of my layer off. So if I know that this is my line, I can turn it off and I can make a whole layer of just grid lines that are at a diagonal.
That's right.
And for a magazine, that makes more sense to me that for a poster, when I'm trying to be straight and to the point anyway, not so much. So the next portion of our poster was supposed to be our definitions.
Yeah.
So all you really need is a box of text, which I'm going to make my text box white. And then draw my text over the top of it. And it's going to fill it with that wonderful Greek text that we all love so much. And then I'm going to select that and them both and make sure I have them aligned reasonably the same space. Then I'm going to get the sprayer symbol tool out, and we talked about the symbols last night. And we were looking at, they were web icons. So we could use this one. We can change that to white. You're not working. So for these, if I wanted to use these, I would have to put some whiteboards behind them, which isn't too bad of a deal. This is actually for the bottom half anyway. Object, transform, range, bring to front. And then need the printer. And what else? We could use a camera, that'll work. Got to make sure you deselect off of your symbols each time, otherwise it's going to make them all one piece. And while that's not very helpful, it will cause you to pull your hair out later.
I'm sure.
So I'm just going to line these up, assuming I can actually grab the black lines. So this is the cool part. I'm going to align all of these and select my background. And I'm going to center them. No, Command Z, that's not it. Where is it? That one. So what I need to do in my alignment panel is make sure that I am aligning it to the selection, not the artboard. So these should be lined up, and then I need, so they're all on the same width now. So where's my key object? Okay, that works. That didn't work. Ideally, these should all line up together with your alignment panel, but if you don't have them aligned correctly, nothing works. So the visual alignment we get, there we go, that's better. And now I can move these down here because these are my additive colors or my subtractive colors, and my additives are up here. And I need to change that back to the black. And then I can hold my Alt key down and drag them to where I want them. And then figure out what is going to work for my digital. These web icons, let's see here.
They have like a phone or something?
There's a phone. So it's got one phone.
Your computer.
And we've got the internet here. And then be nice if I, oh, video games, that'll work.
Yeah, that's good.
Just got to make sure you're deselecting. Okay, so since we have the other ones lined up, all we have to use is the smart guides. And that takes care of our ways that these are supposed to be used. So you got to have at least 3 icons. You can have more if you want. But when you're doing your definitions, remember you only have to do the bullet points enough to point out what the differences are. They don't have to be full paragraphs because it's a poster. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to do a Command A to select it all. I'm going to group it all together. And then I'm going to open up my libraries, which are, what did I do with them this time? My themes, I probably don't have it open for some strange reason. So if I open my libraries, oh, there they are. And I drag this over and add the artwork, it's automatically going to be available in InDesign, and it's going to be available in Photoshop.
Oh, wow.
So this is the cool part. So while I'm waiting for, oh crud, I did not bring my phone in here with me. I was going to plug my phone in so you guys could see what Adobe Capture looks like on the phone, and I forgot it. So we are going to get this wonderful mock-up here. Download that one. I'm just going to tell it to create new, even though it's not what I'm really going to use. So ideally, a poster is going to be 8.5 by 11 or 18 by 24, but that's not really what I want out of here. I want to get into my library, which there are 4 of them named my library. And you can see my poster mock-up. Yeah, I forget to name these things. And every time I open up or save something in Adobe Capture, it puts it into my library. But it creates a new library every time I do it.
Do you get confused?
Very, very easily. So for the poster mock-up, I'm going to right-click on it, and I'm going to go to Edit so that I open up the original file with all of my wonderful layers, the shadows, the noise, everything is in here that I already need. So all I have to do is bring in my clip art.
Mm-hmm.
There's my clip art. And I need to put it down where it's going to be in the correct order. So putting it behind.
Now, when you come out of the library with that file, since it was a vector file originally, is it converted to raster automatically, or is it still considered a vector in Photoshop?
It is. It's a smart art piece at this point because I've basically placed it in here. It's a raster,
Okay.
instead of copying and pasting it from Illustrator.
Mhm.
So what I'm going to do here is just resize this so that it fits within the paper.
Now the pieces aren't editable anymore, though, right?
They are editable if I go back in, and I can actually push and pull this one a little bit and make it a little distorted, because sometimes that's what happens when you frame these things out.
Mhm.
So now when I go through and I look at this and I turn off my guides, clear guides, now I actually have something that looks just like a poster hanging on somebody's wall. And all it really took was finding my mock-up, right-clicking on it and say edit, and then putting my artwork in over the top of the replace me part. That's the really fun part about these mock-ups, because
You just drop it right on top of the layer, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
So even if I were to do this one, so let's put it in a library that says my library.
Yeah, I got to start using.
I've done this several times. But even this one here, if I open it up and then just put my artwork in on it, it's going to look exactly the same.
It's even got that glare.
All I have to do is find out the replacement piece. There's the vertical. So I'm replacing that. And this is where it gets kind of cool, because if I right click on this and say rasterize layer, and whether it's a vector or a rastered or not, it's going to tell you need to do that. But I can go to edit, transform, and I want to go to distort. That way it'll let me pick up the individual corners and line them up inside the frame.
Yeah, I was working with one of these one time and I couldn't figure out if it was skew, if it was distort. I played with all of them and I finally got it. But
skew only lets you do corner to corner, and it just kind of makes a parallelogram out of your piece.
Yeah, that's all it did. I couldn't get it to work with one of them, and I was like, okay, how are we going to do this? And then I didn't even think to look under distort, because I thought distort was something like twisting it up or something. So, and then I found it, and I was like, okay, I guess it is distort. It took me a minute to find. There's so much stuff in this program, like you forget it's even there half the time, because there's so much.
I know, and it just boggles your mind of what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the things that are making you do. And now we have these wonderful tutorials about each new toy.
Oh, yeah.
So
there's a lot of stuff you can do with this. You know, it's amazing.
The new toys are just awesome with these latest updates. So
that's really cool.
I think this particular poster that we're working on here has a horizontal mock-up. So if you wanted to do a horizontal poster, this would be a good mock-up to do that with.
And where did you get these ones from? These were from the Adobe?
These are right out of the Creative Cloud.
Okay.
And to get to these, you just click on Assets and use the search button. Some of these are going to be free, some of them aren't. But this is a really good place to get items that work well with the Adobe programs that have not been shortcutted and have been vetted by Adobe experts. That is probably the number one hardest thing to come across, is a mock-up that you can actually adjust yourself.
Wow.
Because if you go, there's all kinds of places you can go to find those mock-ups for just about anything.
mockupworld.com or something. I think it was on there.
Yeah, mockupworld.co.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Behance is a really good one. It's also connected to your Creative Cloud. I have a whole slew of them from Design Deals because they came in a zip file that I ordered.
Yeah.
But they're not just Photoshop. They're also Illustrator.
They do both.
Yeah. Some of them do.
You have that Shutterstock? Do you do that? It's expensive. I was going to do it, but it's a lot of money.
I would rather pay Adobe stock to get my images, or go to pixabay.com and purchase from other amateur photographers who may have more professional images showing on Shutterstock. But these are the images that they chose not to put up for sale. They're the ones that they didn't think were good enough for it. So,
I see.
So I get really good quality images, really high resolution. It just may not be on a plain background, or it may be just slightly off-centered, or it wasn't focusing on
you
what
just got to do a
the
little
photographer
tweaking.
wanted. Yeah, so it may be something I can work with, and it may be something that I can't make fit on that project at all. But
I seen the price on that site is ridiculous. I could never afford that. I mean, and then we give you a few images a month, and I didn't like the deal. But they had lots of content. I mean, it's beautiful, but I mean, that's a crazy price for that stuff.
Now, I will go in and I will purchase credits from stock or from Shutterstock if I have a client who says, I have to have this image from Shutterstock.
Yeah, that's a different story. Yep.
The only problem with Shutterstock is you have to buy so many credits. Then I have to charge my client for so many credits.
Yeah.
And they may have royalties attached to that image.
Yeah, they're not all 100% usable and sellable. I mean, you got to look at what they say.
If I wanted a stopwatch, I can come in here. I can get my free download as soon as I signed in, which is real easy because you can sign in with just Facebook. But when you download it, you can get up to a 4 megabyte file, depending on what the photographer uploaded. Wow. And for the price of that, it's free, but I can donate the artist a cup of coffee through PayPal. And I still have my licenses, and I keep them in my photos, which I had a Pixabay folder. I'm just wondering where it went. But I can say I want to buy the author a cup of coffee, and it goes through PayPal. And it's my choice.
Yeah.
And I can also follow them and get more content from them as they upload it. And then I see what Shutterstock has in comparison to what I have for royalty free versus going to Shutterstock and possibly having to pay for royalties every time that image is used. So if I'm putting this image on a business card and I'm going to make 1,000 of them, I got to pay royalties 1,000 times.
Yeah, you don't want no part of that.
I don't want to do that. That just
very not economic.
I run a one-woman show here. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
My client isn't going to go for that one.
Nope. And probably most of these on here you couldn't use without any problems, right?
I mean, I can come in here, and there are occasions when I come in here and I'm looking for, say, animals. I got to be very specific.
Yeah.
Do I want owls? Do I want zebras? Do I want a white tiger? Do I need a fox or a really angry-looking Persian cat? Or do I just need a goosefoot?
They are very nice-looking pictures.
They are great pictures. I believe my daughter and I are working on some of these. Right now I'm going through ViewBug for my own work because there's contests involved that you can actually submit your work for. And we spend a lot of time in Yellowstone National Park during the summer because it's only 60 miles away.
Oh, nice.
I live outside the best gate in the whole park. So when I come in here, and I actually upload my own pictures here. I can go to my profile and view these. So I can have my pictures put into contests. This one's in here right now on 2 different contests. This is
beautiful.
This one's outside of Mammoth Springs. And then this is my driveway.
Cool.
And this is the child that is learning how to drive.
That's got to be fun. Mine will be this year coming up.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of fun when I realize she looks like this when she wants to go somewhere. I'm thankful for the wolf helmet, or that wolf hat right now.
Oh, yeah.
And this one was the very first one I entered into one of the contests here because it was all about fairy tales, and she was Red Riding Hood.
Cool. Very
Normally,
neat.
she goes as the wolf.
Yeah.
Hence the hat. And
Sure.
I go as Red Riding Hood, but my red coat didn't come in time.
Oh, I see.
So.
Very nice pictures.
Yes, and most of these were taken with my phone.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So if I click on these pictures, it'll tell me where it was taken, when it was taken or uploaded, how many views it's got, tells me it was taken on an iPhone 6 Plus, what my aperture was set to, my shutter speed, gives me all that information.
And just knows that when you upload it? Or?
Yeah, it's part of the metadata that's included in the photo when you take the picture.
Very interesting.
That's part of the digital imaging software. And when you're using a DSLR camera, it'll automatically put that in there. But what I really like about it is that because it's an iPhone 6 Plus, it tells me which phone it belongs to. Was it my phone? Was it the kid's phone? Was it my husband's phone? Or heaven forbid, was it my mother's phone and she actually got it to focus without her finger on it for a change? I swear, every time I get a new phone, she's got to have the same one I have just so I can walk her through it if she forgets what she's doing.
Yeah, makes sense.
But it's sites like this that allow you to go in and say, yeah, I want to post it for sale. I want to be able to print it. I want to apply effects or edit the information that's on it. But I can get funds for it if I were to sell images of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would want to sell this one.
No.
But this one actually won a Peer Choice Award. So you have a lot of chances to get your name out there as a photographer and as a graphic designer, because you can also take your photoshopped images and enter them in manipulation contests. That's
cool. Really good.
And since we're done with the actual lecture, I get to show you this kind of stuff now.
Awesome. So,
yeah, you can do photo editing, and there are some really awesome prizes in here. And I am in a contest for Thank You and one for Up and Coming because of my one photograph. It's this one.
That's very nice.
These were taken the second weekend in December, right before the snow hit.
Right before it hit.
Right before it hit. And the cadets were out. They had been selling wreaths. Actually, I shouldn't say they. My husband had been dragging them out to sell wreaths since August. And we were laying them out and putting them on all the veterans' graves that we could find. I think we're still about 800 short of filling the cemetery, but it's how they earn their money to go to different activities all year long.
Wow.
And these two actually pointed their faces downward like they were supposed to, were standing the way they were supposed to, and had the right uniform on, so they got to have their pictures taken. And I don't have to have, because their faces and their names are not readable, I didn't have to worry about copyright there or parental permission, because it's based on the red bows, not necessarily the cadet. We're focusing on the veteran versus
the focal
what
point.
the cadets are doing. Yeah. Even though it's not an outright.
Well, it's a very respectful picture too, you know.
Yeah. And
people really appreciate it.
And so far it's been very appreciated, and the ViewBug Talent Scouts have actually put it in the Emerging Talent Awards. So
wow.
When I go in, they're reviewing the winners right now, and the grand jury winner will get the So4 instant film camera. It's kind of like an old Polaroid.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
What I like is the fact that I can get Lightroom presets for Adobe Lightroom. I can get my website with ViewBug highlighted. And those are just a couple of the prizes.
Cool.
So it really makes sense if you're out taking pictures of just anything, or you're staging a picture, or you're trying to do a manipulation.
Yeah, I plan on getting a good camera in the next couple of months, and I want to start going out there when the weather gets better and start taking some pictures and really getting into photography too. Because if you can take your own pictures for your own graphic design, then you don't got to worry about anything, you know. And I guess that's a good thing for me to do. So and they go hand in hand, you know. It's like you have a good photo library you build for yourself, and then you can use that in any way you need to, you know.
And that's where you get to have some fun, because when I go in here and I look at my photographs, I can tell which ones that my family has been helping with. See if I can make these bigger. These are my daughter's picture, and they actually found the brand new mountain goats.
Wow.
The bighorn sheep.
Those are awesome.
These are the ones that she and my husband took while they were on a driving lesson through Yellowstone. And I'm going, are you insane? You took a 15-year-old with a learner's permit and let her loose on the tourist?
Wow. Look at that.
You're nuts. And this is Painted Canyon. It is my favorite place to stop, because any time of day, that color will change.
That is beautiful.
It looks, when it's the very cool part about it, when it's about 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon this summer, the sun's off of it, and you can see all of the beautiful colors in the rock, and it looks like a sunset has been painted on the side of it.
Gorgeous.
Even though it's facing north,
yeah,
it looks like it's a sunset. So
wow.
when she tells me which photographs that she's taken, and she knows, I know this one is my husband because this is a teenager. When she tells me which ones that she's taken, I will upload them for her, and she'll have her own ViewBug account that she can post pictures in. And she's starting to that whole digital imaging and wanting to learn how to paint in Photoshop. And I'm going, I'm not the best with painting in Photoshop, but I can teach you how to manipulate a picture real well.
Use the Topaz filters at all?
On these, no. These are all raw.
You ever use it before, the Topaz Labs? They have a bunch of filters that are really, really cool for Photoshop. They're expensive, but you could try them all for free. Topaz, there are some amazing ones in there. You got to try it. They're awesome.
Some of the stuff that I have used are in Lightroom.
Lightroom?
And that's Lightroom, and it is part of your Adobe software.
Okay.
And when I'm using Lightroom, I can go in and attach my watermark to over 1,000 images at a time,
Oh, cool.
instead of doing it one image at a time. And when you're doing wedding photography, being able to put that watermark immediately on a proof is life-saving. It's going to save your pocketbook, because then they'll be forced to order the picture.
That's right. They want it without that mark, of course. Yeah. That's a must-have.
So being able to, go through 1,000 pictures and put that watermark on there, and then let them pick the ones that they like, that is priceless.
Yes, it is.
That you can always tell when I've been taking pictures, because we get pictures like this.
Wow.
I take pictures of overlay potential.
Yeah.
I will have the zoom maxed out on the telephoto lens, looking at the petrified tree, so I can use the bark as an overlay.
Yeah, it's the way to all the texture and all that, indentations and everything, and all that little tiny pieces. That's awesome. You could do a lot with that.
Yeah. I believe this is Morning Glory. And I'm constantly finding things like this to take pictures of, so I can put them in an overlay on top of another park image. Wow. And kind of collage it, but make it look more like a manipulation than a collage. So I'm always looking for the different colors of algae. So far, I have drawn the line at taking pictures of bison poop. So surprisingly enough, I'm not going to get that close to the bison to find out.
No, I wouldn't either.
They can come as close as they want to me. I'll just stand still and wait for them to go by. But I'm not dumb enough to run.
No.
I am dumb enough to stick my head out the window when the bear's walking by to get a picture of it.
Yeah, you have to for a bear. I would too.
Which I have a few bears in here. But, I love getting out there, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And we take the whole day, drive around the whole park, the whole caldera, and get different pictures. We'll go from 90 degrees and Cody to 65 degrees at Old Faithful.
Wow.
Be a nice, beautiful, cool day.
Definitely a trip I'm going to take one day.
Yeah. So far, we haven't done any camping up there, which I'm grateful for, because my body just doesn't handle camping.
No.
But then I can be 90 degrees down here in town, and we're still, melting ice off the lake.
Oh, wow.
Although the ice will generally melt off of certain spaces faster, because there are hot springs all along the edge of the lake.
Yeah, where I'm at, it's like Monday could be 75, 80 degrees. Tuesday will be 40. It's snowing one week. Like right now it's snowing again. It was pretty warm. It's crazy. You get all 4 seasons in a week. It's insane.
Yeah. The one time I actually catch the moose.
You got him there. Wow.
I got the moose. That was on the way out of town, or out of the park.
Very cool. Awesome.
This is the only time in 7 years that I have been able to catch a moose on the proverbial film, because they're constantly hiding from them. I stay out of the car and don't go on the trip. The moose show up.
That's when they come.
I'm going, really? One time I don't go with you people and the moose come out?
They don't want to be photographed.
I'm not so worried about the elk. I see them all the time. All you got to do is go to Mammoth Springs and you can see elk all year long.
Yeah, pretty common.
But a moose?
That's awesome.
Number one, you don't want to be within sighting range of a moose, because they will charge. I have been within touching distance of a moose on accident on a 4-wheeler, and my uncle's going, put it in reverse. Put it in reverse.
Wow.
Put it in reverse. We're getting out of here.
Yeah, because they will charge after you. Dangerous.
But that was across the plain in another mountain range altogether.
Yeah, it's okay. At your distance.
She had her calf, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, very cool pictures. My gosh.
So,
what a beautiful place.
It's an awesome place to live. It's an awesome place to draw inspiration from. And then there are things like this that I had to take a picture of because it looks like a cool texture.
Yeah, the texture is amazing.
I'm the one looking out the window. Ooh, stop. I need to take a picture of that rock. There are hundreds of rocks. No, you don't understand. That's a cool rock.
Yes, it is. Man.
The Lightroom has special templates and presets that you can use to affect a whole slew of photography from one batch. And this is one of them. I haven't gotten to use it yet.
I got to get into the Lightroom more. Yeah, play with that.
But if I can take pictures of textures, then I can sell into places like design deals like this that I actually paid for.
Yeah.
So that's why I go in and take pictures of anything and everything I can find.
It's a good idea.
And I was going to show you. See if I could find those. No, those are web mock-ups. Those are labels. Paint textures, those are always good.
Oh yeah, those are really nice. I like those. Coming very.
Oh, have you learned how to upload brushes into your Photoshop yet?
I was able to make a few here and there.
Okay.
I should make a lot more though. I got one of those Wacom tablets now, so definitely can use more brushes.
The teenager has my Wacom tablet right now. But if we go into brush presets and we click here, then we can import brushes. And normally you have to be able to know where you've left them. But I know it's the spider web brush set. So I'm going to open it, and then it'll ask me, do I want to append or replace? Usually, and I think I've now had it just append all the time.
Yeah.
So I have, here's my spider webs. And get some decent color here. And there's our paintbrush. What I really like about being able to do this, though, is that if I create a new layer, put it on a blank one, I can treat it like a shape.
You can all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and I can rotate it.
Or did you get it from somewhere? Or
do what?
Did you have to get that from somewhere? Or did you make it yourself? Or
this is one that came in one of those my favorite design deals.
Oh, okay. So they give you brushes too.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. They do brushes, textures. Let's see if I can move
great for Halloween stuff.
Yeah, and that's usually what when I get my pieces is because there's a sale going on a particular tool I want to play with.
Yeah.
So there's Thanksgiving dinner invitations. Like I can't go and create that myself, but it gives me the watercolor brushes to go do it with.
Yeah, the watercolor ones are really nice. I like those too. Very pretty.
I'm not sure about the Willy Wonka quote, but
oh, cool.
I end up with a whole lot of stuff I don't necessarily need.
You never know.
But yeah, they come in. You never know what's going to come in handy.
Even if you just want to make something fun just for yourself, you know?
Yeah. Or say the kids want to have a Halloween party and they've decided they want to make all the decorations. Guess who gets to print them out first? So where was the retro brush spider pack? Let's see what this is. I'm liking the fact that I now have folders to subdivide them. A Vespa. It's a scooter.
Oh, wow.
That is a nice brush.
Just drops a scooter on that's crazy. If you hold it down, you can probably have 100 of them. That's cool.
Now I can put a pin-up on there behind the spider web.
I didn't know they could just drop pictures. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's actually very easy to do, and I think we're going to do one just because we have that extra time today.
All right.
You still got 30 minutes for me to talk, whether you're here or not. So
yeah, it's okay.
Let's see here. We're going to start with a new one, and I'm going to place one of my lovely pictures in here. So let's see here. I think, yeah, we'll do that one. So I just drag it over there, drop it, and I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger. And the cool part about this, I get my selection, I go to select, color range, or I can select a subject. So it's telling me it's selecting this, my waterfall here. So I'm going to go to Edit, Define Brush Preset, Sampled Brush, Waterfall. So now when I go back over here, there's my waterfall.
Wow, possibilities are endless.
Wait, it gets cooler.
That's cool.
It gets much cooler because I can then pick my color and because the black is more prevalent, I can then take that blue and add an effect to it. And kind of make it a little bit more abstract.
Yeah.
Change my angles. I can change the contours. And now it's only affecting the blue. So if I turn the black off, or turn the blue on and off, I see the rocks and things that could be there if I imagine it enough.
Yeah. Very neat.
So there's a lot of really cool toys that you could end up playing with for your poster mock-ups this week that aren't necessarily a part of the prescribed assignment, because you can take the, you know, we're explaining why colors work the way they do for Halloween. Make it a Halloween poster.
Yeah.
Make it you know, we have Easter and Mother's Day coming up and Father's Day. Pick a theme and go for it. I think I've even got a set of brushes in here somewhere that's all neckties. And what I really like about being able to make my own brushes is that you can go into places like All Free Downloads or Seek Vector, and then you can turn those symbols that you have in Illustrator, these symbols here, you could actually turn them into brushes in Photoshop.
That could come in handy real well.
Especially if you're doing something that you're trying to convey a project to a client who's not really connecting all the dots.
Yes.
They don't have all the dots that you do.
Most of the time, yes.
Yeah. It kind of depends on the client, though. I've got one that lives across the street from me who I'll be doing her house. She's planning on running for House representative. So I have to run her campaign. And not only will I be doing all of her brochures, but I'll be doing all of her Facebook marketing, which means I will be sitting down with her starting in July, one night a week, doing question and answers on Facebook Live.
Wow.
Yeah, that worked out really well. She ran for senator last year and only lost by 5,000 votes.
That's it.
And for a late comer to the election who missed out on the primaries totally.
It's unbelievable.
It was a very big upset that the incumbent was not expecting, because halfway through the election, he lost his NRA endorsement. And NRA in Wyoming is very, very heavy, very, very prevalent. They come in and do gun safety courses. They come out and certify instructors to teach gun safety. They have women's only groups where you can go in and you can practice shooting and learn your safety rules in a non-male environment where it can get kind of competitive.
Sure.
Oh, she's not doing it the way I did it. Why isn't she doing it the way I did it? Because I have a mind of my own. That's why I go away.
Yeah, people are very egotistical sometimes, you know. Gotta be my way.
Yeah. And that would be my husband who's telling me I'm not doing it right.
Gotta be his way.
Yeah. He just thinks he's that cute. I'm going to let him think that until after his 70th birthday, and then I'm going to pop his bubble.
There you go. Let him enjoy it.
I've only got a couple of months left. But yeah, there's a lot of really cool tools in here that I encourage you guys to play with this mod, since you have the course load is a little bit lighter in this, since you have a quiz this week.
Yep.
And you have me available to answer any questions.
Okay.
And
are we doing essays and stuff too with this mod? Or?
I do not think there are any essays. There are quizzes now instead of a project. So let's see here.
Okay.
So we only have the quiz for the assessment this week and the posters.
Okay.
And then next week is just the same discussion.
A project and a quiz?
Yeah, I think so.
Sounds good.
And they're going to be cumulative assessments when you get through them. So if, did you want more than one chance to take it?
For the assessment?
Yeah.
Or?
I can set it to take up, do two tests.
You could put an extra one just in case something gets screwed up or something.
Okay, yeah. I will take care of that for this week, and we'll play next week by ear.
Okay.
Because I do want you guys to get the information out of it, but I don't want you to freak out about it either.
Okay.
So you'll get 2 attempts, and it'll keep the highest one, not the lowest one. It'll keep the highest score, and it won't average them together. It'll just keep the highest one.
Okay.
So, and I think everything you need to know is in the PowerPoint I put in the announcements last night, along with your daily checkpoints.
Yes.
So
I always go back and watch the lecture after I'm done with it live, just to make sure I caught everything.
And has anybody showed you the nifty tricks and techniques to pass an open book test yet?
Not really.
Oh, I have to show you this.
Okay.
Every student should have this in their arsenal. It's called Command F.
Command F.
Brings up this Command F, as in find, And I can go in here and I can type in
Is that control F on a PC?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'll make sure.
And it will tell me how many times it's displayed. The really cool part about that is when you're doing a discussion or a daily checkpoint question, you can bring up the Command F, and they give you these long paragraphs of information, and it may be one word that's off. So you can copy and paste part of that question or all of it into the find, and it'll tell you where it's at, so you could go in there and double check your information that you've been reading, and you will be able to find that one missing or added letter or word that makes the statement either true or makes it false. So it's a really good checks and balances for checking it. The other thing is that, yeah, I know, it's awesome. And they taught me in the Student Success Center.
And that's okay to use that, huh?
It is, because it's an open book test.
Yeah, it's true. It's open books. I mean,
it is. So you can have your ebook open or your online educational resources open, and it says, okay, true or false. RGB stands for cyan, magenta, and yellow. Well, you know that it stands for red, green, and blue, but you could literally search through that whole page for where it says RGB stands for, paste it into the find box, and it'll tell you. It'll take you right to it. It'll highlight every instance of it, and all you got to do is arrow down through them. This would have saved me so much time in marketing classes.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't bother to tell me this one until I got to a 400 level.
Wow.
I'm going, why is this not giving us some study resources?
Yeah, some of the you're right, because I mean, you can read those books like crazy and still miss a lot of information, and that.
And just because we're going through it in such a hectic and fast pace, that we miss things. And honestly, I think it's to be expected that we miss things, because that makes our learning curve higher. We're going to remember it once we've missed it.
That's right.
The other thing is that you can actually come in and type the word define in. And I can type in, say, a vocabulary word that's coming up. It gives me, granted, it's a Wikipedia, so you can't use it for a resource, for a reference.
Yeah, and
but you can read through it and find out that color theory is a body of practical guidance to mixing color. That's all you need. And you can do that for just about any vocabulary. Sometimes it's going to be from Wikipedia. Sometimes it's going to be from dictionary.com. But they will always try and give you as close to the vocabulary word and its intent as possible.
That's awesome too.
So those are the two biggest study tools I can give you as you're going into the bachelor's program.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Especially when they, spring that biology, psychology, biology, and that whole marketing, organization, and change class. It's a big, thick textbook with blue paper, with blue writing, with no pictures.
What?
No highlighted words to tell you what's important. It was an awful book. I'm going.
That's horrible.
Going, what are you doing to me here? You're going to kill me. It was okay on everything for the papers, but when it came to taking the test, I couldn't find the vocabulary words. There was no glossary in it. There was no index.
Nothing.
Nothing. It was a horrible, horrible book.
Wow.
But that could have been the version of book I had, because it was an international copy.
Yes, it could be. Yeah, that's true.
Because I was not going to pay $400 for a textbook.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
For one
But
book.
I don't do so well with ebooks because I can't use my finger to point out the word.
I'm the same way. I'd rather have it in my hands, I think. You know, I seem to grasp it a little better that way.
So, yeah, and most of the books I purchased went towards my master's degree anyway, so I didn't have to purchase them again.
Now, the books they have here, if you request them on hard copy, would they give them to you for the school, or?
It depends if you have an accommodation for that.
Okay. Gotcha.
I think you have to have that accommodation request.
Okay.
But, you know, with me, it was just cheaper and faster to go through Amazon,
Yeah,
trying to use a copy of the book.
Amazon's great for that. That's for sure.
And there is a book I'm going to recommend that if you ever get the chance to check out, I want you to do so.
Okay.
It is a huge book, but it's Meg's History of Graphic Design. It's very, very thick. And wow, the price has gone down a lot. I had to pay like $130 for the book.
Wow.
It's worth every penny for the information that it gives you. Granted, a lot of it is just pictures.
Wow, there is a lot of stuff in there.
There is a lot of stuff in here.
Oh my goodness.
But
And
I'm hoping.
Editions, I know that's 6th edition at the latest one.
Yes. I still have the hard copy. I don't think they've come out in. It's only a year old in the hard copy.
I wonder if the library has a copy of that.
Mine did the last time I checked it. They just weren't willing to let me keep it for an entire semester.
Gotcha. Meg's.
Yeah, Meg's History of Graphic Design, and I was kind of hoping.
I'm definitely going to get that.
It's a very cool book filled with timelines, wonderful full color graphics, and it starts with the prehistoric development of alphabet as the first typography and the first graphic design explaining what's going on, all the way through to current day.
You could pull some inspiration from this too, I'm sure.
Yeah,
all the different cultures.
That's why I'm recommending that you at the very least go to the library and check it out.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to do that.
Because it is a awesome reference book. And it even goes into the Rosetta Stone and how they ended up translating it based off of the Greek and the Demotic.
Wow.
So it goes everywhere from Mesopotamia to the Maya.
Jeez. They got a Kindle edition. That's good.
Yeah, Kindle's only $61, but I like the my big hard copy. It's something I can slam down on the table and just flip through it.
That's the way I like it too. Yeah, that's cool. They put it on digital for some people that liked it though. On the go, it's easy to carry, I guess, you know.
And it's amazing the books I find in here because somebody mentioned something either in a faculty meeting or a student mentioned having seen something. I'll go through here, see if I can find a copy of the book. And if I get a used one, I get a really good price on them for being almost new or like new.
That's really good.
There's a couple of them I couldn't get on here based on typography, but they are sold through the campus website. So, and it was actually authored by one of my professors, so I actually had to go fork over the whole $75 for it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I had to have 2 different versions of it because one professor taught out of the older version and the professor that wrote it taught out of the new version.
Oh, boy.
Going, really? I got to have 2 $75 books for this?
You get expensive quick.
It does. But I will say that I do not have any regrets at all in purchasing books, especially when they're reference books that I can use to teach you guys, give you guys some wonderful inspiration to draw off of, or it helps me
Absolutely
clarify a project that we're doing. So
I mean, they come in very handy to have a book like that, you know, I mean, just to grab it when you need to, or, you know, you want to explain something to the kids or just find out some history about a certain period or culture.
yeah,
That's awesome. It's an awesome book to have.
There's typography book in here that used to be.
That's what I love most.
The typography workbooks. The layout workbook is a really good one. The hand lettering, I haven't really gotten into much because I'm just trying to figure out how to decorate my own handwriting. That's all I want to do right now.
Yeah.
But the cool part is I can come in here and I can buy a kindergarten or third grade handwriting tablet, and I don't have to measure out the lines myself.
That can save some time and come in really handy too.
Yeah. I went kind of nuts in the stationery department, went back to school hit, and I bought out all the kindergarten writing tablets.
It's a good idea.
So they don't use them here, so I'm going, okay, I'll just buy them.
Yeah, you keep practicing on them, and it's great.
Yeah, there's some, and then there's graph paper. I use it a lot, and then when I'm out of graph paper, I will go make the measurements out in Excel and turn it into my graph paper.
Another great idea. Wow.
So, because it'll let me do the whole sheet at once.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
And when you're trying to play with the temperamental fountain pen.
I know all about it. I used to draw with those fountain pens when I was in school. I used to use them for drawing, and I would get through a picture. They were awesome for lines. I mean, like when I made my lines for I used to do like really high-end graphic comic characters. And you get through the whole thing. That was weird how I drew. I never used pencil to sketch. I always started with ink, and I just finished with ink. You know, that's the way I did it. And I would usually get through it pretty fine, but I'd be on a project for like, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours sometimes, and I'd get, all of a sudden, the damn pen would just like blow up, and that would ruin my whole picture. You know, they were temperamental, you know.
This pen right here is on its way.
This one here?
This one right here.
Wow.
It's a glass pen for calligraphy and sketching.
Wow. See, I used to use the one with the cartridges that went in there. Is that what they are too, or are they dip?
No, this is a dip.
It's a dip one. Yeah, I had the cartridge one.
I do have my fountain pens that have the cartridge, and it's also got a dip adapter so you can fill the ink well. But you know, I had to have this one because it was purple.
Yeah.
It was glass.
That's really cool.
And it could do things like this.
That's what I need. Something like that.
So
I love those real fine tips and the dark inks.
Yeah.
Nothing like it.
So it was
like I said, you load it up too much or it drips a little bit, you could ruin the whole. You got to be so careful. You know, that's
kind of why I really liked it, because it had this wonderful groove. Let's see if I can get to the pictures. I really liked it because when you took a close look at it, the ink is held in the grooves. It takes a 10-second wash and wipe with the paper towel. And because, you know, I had to get the whole kit with 4 or 5 colors of ink and the little pen holder.
That's not even that expensive either.
No, it's not. And I thought for a tool where I'm trying to decorate my own font, having the ability to go thicker or darker based on how much ink I have on a particular section of a letter would be far more helpful than me trying to master this Lumen fountain pen from Hobby Lobby that keeps breaking because I put too much pressure on it.
Oh, they're beautiful.
Not only are they a work of art, but they make works of art. So yeah, it was one of those I must have.
Oh yeah.
Turned into Grendel.
What's the site called? Pop Grab?
Yeah, Pop Grab. I'll send you the link to it.
Might have to pick
But it's just one of those cool tools that I thought would be fun to play with. You know, in that supposed downtime I have.
Mm-hmm. You got to find some of that for yourself to kind of unwind and play with stuff.
Well, some of that's got to be stuff that I can reuse and use it as an instructor so that I can tax deduct it.
That's the way to do it.
So if I'm having fun with it, then it's awesome. I can tax deduct it too.
That's the whole thing. If you're having fun, you know, you got to have fun with it. Yeah.
And at the very least, I can sit it on my desk in its little pretty box and never touch it and just look at the pretty glass.
That's right. Makes a nice accent piece to the whole environment, you know.
Yeah. I'll put it in a shadow box and frame it.
Yeah, I would.
But,
those are beautiful.
The fact that it was a dip pen that controlled the flow of the ink to the tip by the swirls. And my mother used to make glass marbles and glass beads. So I know in theory how this is done and how they got all the twists and turns in there. It makes me want to go melt things.
Oh,
but
yeah.
That's not a safe thing to do because I always ended up singeing something off, like, you know, finger hair or fingernails.
My buddy does the glass blowing. He does a business for this kind of stuff, and man, it's amazing some of the stuff he can make with the glass. It's never seen.
I love to watch it, but I'm not getting any closer than the break anymore.
Yeah, because it can. That's dangerous stuff. You know.
I'm too klutzy to be playing with the acetylene torches. I love them. I love to watch them. I love to watch marbles being made. I'm just not brave enough to go in that direction ever again.
No, it's definitely a dangerous environment, but it's so fun to watch. So very cool stuff.
It is. Every time, you know, how it's made comes on and there's glass blowing involved. Yeah. The
blacksmith at the medieval festival was making swords and stuff with the anvil and that was so cool. You know, just to see him crafted out of metal with the glowing hot. Yeah. It was really neat.
I like going to the jewelers at the medieval shows.
Yeah, yeah. They make
Great way to find awesome jewelry.
They have some really cool jewelry at those shows. They really do. I got when I went there last time, there was a guy, you tell him like a special date in history, like maybe your anniversary, your birthday or whatever. He would look up the moon, what it looked like on that day. And then he would get the image and then somehow he would put it into like a pendant and cover it in glass. And then you wear it around your neck. So you have that moon that was out the night you were born or your anniversary, your wedding, and you guys can wear it forever. And that's the moon that was out the night of your choice. It was really cool. We got a couple of those when we were up there, but that was a neat idea, you know, like. Yeah,
that's kind of one of those marketing ploys that you as a graphic designer can pull out and use as a tool to brand yourself to a certain market.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different like avenues you can have, you know, like just, you know, for different things. You just, the more things you have your hands in, I guess the more versatile you are and the more money you can make. And, you know, so it's always good to keep an eye on for stuff like that, opportunities. And I do cornhole boards too in the summertime. So I'm making cornhole boards, but I'm doing them like really, I design them with Photoshop, like the actual 2x4 top. I make them like extraordinarily extravagant graphics, like with crazy colors and all kinds of stuff. And then I get them printed out on vinyl and then I apply them to the thing and then I clear coat them and they look like car paint when I'm done. So that's like one of the things I do with my graphic design just for fun, like in the spring, summer, fall. And I sold like, I think, 25 sets last year. And
so I'm hoping that this next year is going to be leading me into the bridal design part to help make your cake, everything from your cake topper to your invitations and response cards all match.
See, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's a great field. So many things you can design for that, you know, it's.
And if I start here, it's a smaller clientele base.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Granted, you may have to do 500 of them, but if I can manage to get my calligraphy working correctly and practice enough with it, then I'll be able to charge them for hand addressing them to make them look personalized instead of stickers, which people don't always open.
I think a lot of people would appreciate that too. They would pay the extra money to have that done by hand and to find someone that really is passionate about it. So
and considering the amount of ranchers we have around here that are living off of the beef right now, there is definitely a market because all of their children are becoming a marriageable age.
Yeah.
And starting to take over the ranch. So
there's definitely a market.
Yeah, there is a market. Well, it is now 7:46. And I think I've talked your ear off enough. I'm going to let you go get some work done. Okay. And I will see you next Monday.
Sounds good. You enjoy the weekend coming up and have a great rest of your week. Thank you for taking the time with me tonight, too. It was very enjoyable. I appreciate it.
Anytime. I love working one-on-one with students.
It's so much fun. I don't get too many opportunities to do that either. It usually is
take them while you can.
That's right. So it's always.
If you come up with anything you really want to learn in Photoshop or Illustrator, this mod, bring it to class. We'll work on it together.
Okay, I sure will. If I come through any things this week, I'll write them down and I'll have them ready for Monday.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you so much again, Terry. You have a wonderful night.
You're welcome, and you too.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.